Hello, Dr. Kit Slies here, psychologist and life coach, here to inspire your confidence, self-compassion, and growth. And I'm actually home today here in my dining room. Our family has been struck by COVID, so my little ones are home from daycare. Wasn't even sure I'd get a chance to record this video today, but here we are. Hopefully no interruptions. They're napping. I've put the dogs outside, so hopefully we're all good. And so I've been thinking about the new year and New Year's resolutions that we're, of course, many of us are setting. I know I talked about that last time. And a lot of us are thinking about nutrition, being healthier, all that good stuff, right? And so I wanted to talk a little bit about nutrition and mental health. I don't think that gets talked about very often. It's typically not a focus of the work that I'm doing with a lot of my clients. Sometimes it is, but it is an important piece, and I think it's an important thing to talk about, especially if you're setting a goal around nutrition or being healthier or losing weight or whatever that is. I want to talk about the mental health aspect of the things that we put in our bodies, because maybe that can help you reach your goals. And I don't want this information to be an excuse for anyone to feel shame if we're not eating in this particular way, or for this to inspire any kind of restrictive behavior. I know for myself, I've had my own journey with body image and unhealthy eating habits. In the past, I had a tendency towards something called orthorexia, which I wasn't full blown. What orthorexia is an eating disorder where essentially the person becomes like really overly focused, almost obsessed with healthy eating, and really to the point where they may experience distress if they're not able to eat in a particular prescribed manner. And so that was kind of my past tendency. I wasn't quite there. And so I used to, like many people, some of my clients even, always going out and kind of consuming, oh, what's the best way to be eating? What's good for you? What's bad for you? And so I don't want you to use this information to fuel that kind of mindset. I have myself arrived at a much healthier, though not perfect, relationship with food and my body. And one of the things that helped me get there, well, there was a lot of the things, but I think giving myself an understanding of trying to eat food that felt nourishing to me and understanding what nourishment truly was. I use an approach called mindful eating or intuitive eating with myself and with some of my clients. And the main idea with that is to really listen to your body. And in my studies as a psychologist, I also really just found um, an understanding of how food impacts our bodies and in our mental health. And when I really integrated this understanding for myself, and some of my clients will also do this, when they integrate this understanding and are able to understand how food is nourishing, and to understand our individual experience of that, because everyone's experience is a little bit different. I find that can be helpful, and it's a helpful part of that journey. So I wanted to share some simple concepts with you. And just keep in mind, I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a medical professional. I am a psychologist. But if you have any medical conditions or questions, please consult your own medical provider about if you're going to make any changes. Although most of the things that I'm talking about today are pretty standard as far as healthy guidelines. So I wanted to start with just a little bit of an understanding of some of the ways, not all, but some of the ways that food can impact our mental health. And then we'll get into some strategies and some simple things to keep in mind. But one of the main ways that food can impact our mental health is with blood sugar. So when we're eating sugar-rich or carbohydrate-rich foods without pairing that with like a protein or something that's going to stabilize our blood sugar has a spike, and we get lots of energy and we feel good. But what if that blood sugar spike falls? then sometimes we can experience not just a shift in our energy, but a shift in our mood as well. So that's one way that the things that we put into our body can impact our mental health. Another way that food can impact our mental health is digestion itself. Think about it. If you have an upset stomach, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not really in a good mood when I have an upset stomach. I don't want to be bubbly or talk to people or do things. I just kind of want to hide in my cave until I feel better, right? So if we're eating foods that don't fit with our personal digestion, that's impacting our mental health potentially. Another way that food impacts our mental health is just the ritual around eating. You know, we are a species who we tend to be very social when we're eating. It's typically a social ritual, and when we're eating, when we're in good mental health, that social ritual helps us be relaxed and encourages good digestion. And so having that ritual and feeling relaxed just can be an indication of being in a place of good mental health. Food can impact our mental health because if we have body image concerns or issues or struggles, and sometimes just the act of eating can be very triggering for us. So that's one factor. I'm not going to get too much into that one today, but I'm just kind of highlighting some of the many varied ways that food has a relationship with our mood and the way we feel about ourselves. Probably one of the biggest things is that food is the main source of something called a neurotransmitter and certain hormones. And all these are just chemical messengers in our bodies that modulate our mood. It's not like a one-to-one relationship between a neurotransmitter and our mood, but they are important. These are things that are present in our gut and in our brain and throughout our body, the hormones and certain chemical messengers. So the amino acids in foods are actually the building blocks typically that neurotransmitters need to even exist. So the food that you eat literally impacts your mood in that sense. And then another way that food can impact our mood and our bodies is that our brain, which is in some ways the source of some of our emotions or how our emotions are expressed, is our brain is made largely of fat and needs healthy fat to function well. And then another just consideration is sleep. If we need good sleep to have good mental health, and if again, this goes back to digestion, if we're eating foods that maybe are keeping us up, or we're not digesting well, or if we're not eating enough and waking up hungry in the night, it could be impacting our sleep. I could go on and on of the ways that food plays a role in mental health. So now that I've highlighted just some of the basic principles of how food can impact us and our mood, I just want to highlight 3 simple strategies, simple things to keep in mind when you're setting your health goals for this year. And so the first one is to really just listen to your body. This is, I think, so important because, yes, there's all these fad diets out there and all these prescriptive ways of eating and all of that. But when it comes down to it, even if some of those were healthy, which I don't know that there is a fad diet that's really healthy, but even if they were, it wouldn't be for everybody because all of our bodies are different. We have different ways of digesting foods. We have different foods and sensitivities, different things that just work well with some people and not with others. So more than anything, please listen to your body. And I think one helpful thing to do can be to keep a food journal where you're making note of your mood and energy levels, any digestive comfort or distress that you're having, how full you're feeling and for how long, just to understand how different foods impact you. And you don't have to even do like an elimination diet or anything like this. This is just bringing awareness to the wisdom that is inherent in your body. This is a really important piece, especially if body image is a struggle for you, as it was for me. This is one of the things that I did for myself, was just being mindful about the food that I'm eating, but trying not to be judgmental about it, right? Just observing like a scientist, how does this impact me? So just listening to your body and gathering that information, sometimes that's enough to help guide our decisions when we're making food decisions, not even consciously. Okay, so that's kind of a cool thing about keeping a food journal and gaining that awareness. The second simple strategy or principle to keep in mind would be to focus on adding in healthy options as opposed to thinking about what you're going to restrict from your diet. And now there may be, if you have a particular health condition, there may be things that you do need to restrict from your diet, and that's a different story. But if you're somebody who's just trying to be healthier and wanting to make some healthy changes, I think it's a lot easier to think about, ooh, what can I have as opposed to what can't I have? Because then you want all the things that you think you can't have, right? So what would you want to add in? There's a couple of main things. One would be to adding in protein with every meal. As I mentioned, you know, food being a source for neurotransmitters, that really comes from protein, essentially, would be one of the primary places. And then protein is also important for that stabilization of our blood sugar if we're eating any sugary or carbohydrate rich foods in particular. So if you can just think about adding protein in with every meal, that would be a helpful thing that can really help, particularly with anxiety, with that the blood sugar ups and downs. Protein is really important for that. Another thing to think about adding in is incorporating healthy fats. This is especially like when you're eating vegetables, as some of the nutrients need actually some fat to be absorbed. Omega-3s are a really important thing to be adding in for your brain health. Fish is best, but even chicken, turkey, eggs can have some levels of this. And you can supplement the omega-3 DHA if needed. This can be supportive for treating depression. There's some evidence to support that. It's not conclusive, but I will include a link below with more specific details on what fats to add in. But remember that your brain is essentially made up of fat, and it needs fat to function well. So don't be afraid of fat. Of course, you want to be you don't need a lot of fat. So thinking of in moderation here, and again, I'll include that link below if you want to get more specific on the sources of where you would get those fats. And then the other thing to think about adding in would be green leafy vegetables and some fruits like citrus and berries. And these are, of course, so rich with nutrients. And there is also quite a bit of evidence to suggest that this can be protective against depression and can help fuel optimism and self-efficacy and all of that. I will include a link below also for some further explanation on that. But one of the reasons that we think that might be the case is because vegetables in particular, those leafy green vegetables, are protective against inflammation, which we're finding more and more might be a factor in some mental health symptoms that we experience, particularly depression. So if all you're doing is thinking about adding in some things, making sure that you're getting proteins, healthy fats, and adding in fruits and vegetables, that might be enough. And then the final principle that I would put out there, for how food can impact your mental health. So we've got, so far we've talked about just listening to your body, maybe keeping a food journal, and adding in things as opposed to restricting. And then I would just add in finally to just trying to eat throughout the day if possible, from the time you wake up in the morning until a few hours before bedtime. And now some of you are doing intermittent fasting and all of that. And if you're finding that your mood is just fine with that kind of stretch, that's fine. Again, that goes back to our first idea of listening to our body. But eating throughout the day is going to help with those blood sugar levels, and it's going to help just keeping you satisfied and in good spirits throughout the day. It also just supports eating early in the morning, supports our hormones that contribute to our circadian rhythm, which again, remember how we talked about food and sleep kind of had an interaction for your mental health. So these are just some strategies that hopefully they're simple and easy to remember, and Again, please don't feel like you're going to shame yourself if you're not doing these things. These strategies are here to help you feel like you can be confident and growing your mental and physical wellness. And I hope this is helpful for you today and that your new year is off to a good start. Bye.